Hello everyone, it's thomasjujube, and welcome to Rider Potential, the series where I take a look at how Hasbro could adapt Kamen Rider and explore the many possibilities of such an adaptation. Kamen Rider is a very successful franchise in Japan, but it doesn't really have any sort of popularity outside of the country. Many fans outside of it hope for some sort of presence for the franchise in other countries, and creating a new adaptation series for it could certainly be a way to do so. We don't know if Hasbro may ever commit to an undertaking of this size because of the scale of the franchise, and after the failures of the last two tries to create a foothold for it outside of Japan, along with recent rumblings of it possibly being brought to the West in a different way. In fact, when asked about a Kamen Rider adaptation, Hasbro just straight up said they have no adaptation plans for it. Previously, I looked at how unadapted Super Sentai seasons could be adapted into Power Rangers, and a lot of you asked if I could do the same for Kamen Rider, something I had actually been planning to do when I was thinking of Sentai Potential. So to see you guys asking for me to do it as well just made me want to do it even more. So now I'm here with Rider Potential doing just that, looking at how Hasbro could adapt Kamen Rider. Let it be known in these videos that I'm not asking Hasbro to take my ideas, and I'm not expecting them to do so. I'm not trying to force anyone to do anything here. I don't even think that we'll see a Rider adaptation for a very long time, since Hasbro is still trying to find their own footing with Power Rangers, and it would be kind of insane for them to start another entire adaptation process for another series. I'm just trying to have some fun here, sharing my own ideas and trying to get a conversation going, but I'm still going to try and be as realistic as possible with the whole series. To do this, I made an intro video for Rider Potential that goes over the basics that you'll need to know in this video and for future videos. I made it as short as possible to give you a quick watch in case you need some catch up. As you can probably tell from the title and the thumbnail, today's Rider Potential focuses on the best match hero himself, Kamen Rider Build. If you saw my review of the season, you would know that I thoroughly enjoyed Build and would certainly enjoy an adaptation of it. Before we can get into Build's aesthetics though, be sure to join the channel Discord server where you can talk with me and other subscribers about all things tokusatsu, and follow me on Twitter for sneak peeks at upcoming videos and just to hear more of my thoughts. Now, it's time for Rider Potential Build. Oh look, it made sense for once. The suit aesthetics of the entire Build season are very nice and sleek. The base suit for Build, the one you're going to be seeing the whole season, uses a lot of nice striking edges and corners as detailing, but still keeps this rounded exterior that makes it one of the cooler Heisei Rider suits. And it's always a joy to see it on screen because it looks so fluid and is great in action scenes. The other forms sadly don't keep this roundness, but there are some nice unifying aspects to all the suits with the retainment of the jagged fusion lines on the suit, which is a really cool aspect I think other people would enjoy. Build's forms really just look dramatically different from each other with the changing of entire colors on the suit, eye shapes, and silhouettes. However, this really helps with Build's mix and match aspect as well, and gives each half body a different personality and design that can make the show really distinct. We saw that Zord Builder's own mix and match ideas for Power Rangers worked out pretty well, so using some striking asymmetry as a launching point for Kamen Rider could be really cool. Of course, then we start to lose this aspect as we move into more powerful forms that begin to use symmetry once again, but even then all these forms still look amazing. The Hazard Trigger forms are some of my favorite suits in Kamen Rider. The symmetry aspect carries over into the other riders and works very well there too. And of course, as we move into the series and Build starts to use symmetry more, it provides a nice lineup with all the riders. Cross Z provides a nice contrast to the base Build form since he appears the most with that, but then he pairs very nicely with the other upgrades as well. He's sharp and angular and has just stunning suits, all of them really. No, not you. Get out. Okay, that one's bad, but the rest of the Sklash suits also look pretty nice. The jelly aspect on Grease is interesting and it stands out really nicely. And Rogue's crazy jaggedness creates a sinister feeling, even when he becomes a hero. The golden metallic purple also contrasts nicely with each other and the other two riders. Evil is also pretty solid as a villain suit. There's nothing amazing in my opinion, but it works well and it's very menacing. Black Hole form though certainly feels like a more powerful upgraded version, our final boss, so that's nice. However, the drivers for all the gear does have a bit of a disconnection from the suits in that they all have this cobbled together feeling with all the gears and cranks and whatnot standing out. None of them look bad in my opinion, but when most of the suits have this sleek look to them, it's a bit jarring when this idea doesn't carry over to the belts and equipment. But then if you want to look at this as the first Kamen Rider adaptation of this new era, it could actually work. The man-made feeling could set a staple for the season with how the main rider made all the gear, kind of like the cyborg aspect with the original Kamen Rider in Japan. This also stands out very well with the animal designs that the characters use for their forms. Wait, sleek suits, mechanical drivers, organic and inorganic, it all ties together. That's a nice little detail that could be a cool thing for the keen-eyed to notice. Overall, I'd say that the build aesthetics could work great for an outside audience. The base suits are sleek and contrast nicely. We've got a bunch of different animals and other machinations that have different spins on them, and it could leave an opportunity to create this funny meta joke with how it's kind of a trope that's been pretty recurring in a lot of recent toku. Just another idea, as I think that Build's aesthetics are fantastic and could work well for an adaptation. Looking at Build as a show, one of my favorite aspects was the relationship between Sento and Ryuga, Kamen Rider Build and Cross Z. It created this nice through line for the entire show and created an amazing central dynamic for the main characters. So that's why for my adaptation, I think we should take this idea and make it a main connection point for our characters, a central theme of the whole show. It could be a nice way of separating the characters or even unifying them. To do this, it would of course require a bit of messing around with the stock footage and the creation of a lot of original footage, but honestly I really like this theme of finding a family and duality. It would also play into the Skywall a bit, which still created 3 separate sections in the adaptation, but would of course likely not be Japan because you want to try and make a broader appeal. Of course, our 2 main riders are still Build and Cross Z with a few allied characters. The beginning of the season would focus with these 2 characters as they meet each other and begin to develop a friendship with each other while they fight the monsters of the week and the villainous Night Rogue who's creating them from the shadows. At the same time, they're also trying to unlock the mysteries of the Build driver equipment that Build made, as it came from blueprints he simply found, blueprints that he would later use to make upgrades in the hope of defeating Night Rogue. When defeating Night Rogue, they all discover that the ultimate power of the system comes from something called synchronization. They don't know what it is, but their searches cause them to beat Night Rogue, and then they encounter the secondary rider team, Kamen Rider Grease and his sister Kamen Rider Rogue, which is not the same character as Night Rogue. These 2 are also on the hunt for synchronization, but utilize a different rider system to do so, and under orders from their government, they attack Build and Cross Z's native land. Grease and Rogue serve as antagonists to our 2 heroes, requiring them to gain new upgrades and learn to depend on each other even more. These opposing teams of riders would be the primary story for this middle section of the season. I say primary story because for this section, Night Rogue will still play a massive part. His story will be a bit of what the Rogue special was. We'll get a lot of backstory on him as he searches for the origins of the Build driver technology and a way to achieve synchronization. His searches eventually bring him to find his own partner, Bloodstock. Much like his Japanese counterpart, Bloodstock would be a manipulative character, and he takes advantage of Night Rogue's search for power, and they find and evolve the Build driver. Eventually, these 2 show themselves to the warring rider factions with the debut of Kamen Rider Evil and Kamen Rider Mad Rogue, representing the 3rd faction country. The switch from Night Rogue to Mad Rogue instead of just Kamen Rider Rogue, I feel makes a bit more sense from a visual storytelling standpoint, as one set of suits uses a bat theme and the other uses a crocodile theme, but in Japan these 2 were the same characters and this was a different character, okay? In the actual adaptation they would of course have different names, but I'm too lazy to come up with different names for them, so please don't get confused. I will try to be as specific as possible. In typical Toku fashion, the presence of 2 more powerful villainous riders would cause the other riders to join forces to defeat them. The 2 villain riders fight our heroes for a short time until they finally discover how to trigger synchronization. The true power of the Build driver comes from its dual full bottle system, which is unlocked when 2 people develop a trust for each other. Synchronization is why Evil and Mad Rogue have employed each other's help. Developing a partner bond, they synchronize and create the Evil black hole form. As a synchronization, this form is massively powerful and creates a massive disadvantage for our heroes, even though they have amassed a significant power set by this point. However, Evil Black Hole is unstable and lasts only a few episodes before it explodes, basically. I envision Mad Rogue to have a sort of hero's journey throughout the season, and it comes to a head here, where he realizes he's been manipulated by Evil at this point and separates in the black hole form. And when he does this, he steals a bit of Evil's power and becomes Kamen Rider Blood Rogue. Evil is now left powerless and not in his complete form, much like in Japan, and this is what causes him to attempt to synchronize with Build and Cross Z, maybe even Rogue and Grease if we make new suits. At this point, you're probably asking, why would synchronization forms, the highest powers of the entire Rider system, be so easily shattered? This is also the question our heroes ask themselves as Evil goes through his body snatching phase. Those damn kids, I hate when they go through that body snatching phase. I hope they'll grow out of it and do their black hole phase. Blood Rogue acts as an anti-hero here to make up for his mistakes, and every single time Evil appears, he tries to kill him. But alas, Evil simply powers up from the heroes, regains his strength, enough to separate from them and merge with Blood Rogue in a way that completely cancels his input on the form, giving Evil full control. In other words, he uses the black hole trigger so he can use all the stock footage that black hole form appears in. This gives us another layer on how synchronization truly works. The two people that are synchronized must not only develop a trust for each other, they must have a complete relational bond. They must feel like family to each other. It can't be forced like Evil and Rogue had, it has to be completely natural. The Evil driver was intended to overcome this requirement for synchronization by just using quote-unquote trust, but alas, the system can't be cheated easily, and that's why Evil's forms have shattered until he developed the black hole trigger, copying Kamen Rider Build's design. See what I did there? In light of this revelation, Build and Cross Z believe they may have achieved synchronization capability, and that's how they be the one, and we get the final form of the season, Cross Build. This is also a reference to how the whole body merge aspect is based off of the Be the One movie, where Cross Build makes its one and only appearance. In the adaptation, it has more importance than that because it's a culmination of the relationship we've been building between the two characters. Despite Rogue and Grease being siblings alongside the Kaisers, that will have a little bit of significance since it kind of reveals synchronization. Both of these sibling sets are not completely synchronized. Build and Cross Z show the Rider siblings what it actually means to be family, because they're going to be a bit standoffish from each other and have a bit of a rivalry throughout the season. So when they finally realize it at this moment, it would cause their own synchronization into a purple Grease Blizzard. Obviously that last part is a bit ambitious. If we can't get a separate Grease Blizzard, then hey, use Grease Perfect Kingdom. Obviously this last part's a bit ambitious, but I think the rest of the ideas could create a really different season than what we got in Japan, but a season that still respected source footage and could be a really appealing watch for fans of tokusatsu and new fans. Onto the possible sales of the adapted Kamen Rider Build. Let's get started with the action figures segment. There will be figures for Build's main form and main upgrade forms, and then we've got the 15 other best match forms that appear throughout the show. I'm not including the silver and gold rabbit dragon. Despite that appearing in the show, it's literally in it for all of 30 seconds and it's completely CG. So Grease Blizzard has more relevance, which is why I'm including it. Speaking of Grease Blizzard, we have Grease Blizzard along with just normal Grease, Rogue to fill out the Splash Riders along with that, and then we have the other three wonderful Cross Z forms. I love all three of you. I don't like you. For our Evil driver roster, we've got Evil and his three forms, and then Mad Rogue. Speaking of Mad Rogue, we've also got Night Rogue, Bloodstock, and the Kaisers for the Trans Steam Gun Pseudo Riders. And then lastly are the Guardians and their hard counterparts. All of these are 6-inch figures that go for $10 each, and I imagine that the main 5 riders will also get larger 12-inch scale figures, just like in Power Rangers. Time for our large roleplay items. There's the Build driver, the bootleg Build driver, and the Evil driver. Anyway, there's the Trans Steam Guns, which would be $30 weapons, and since the Full Bottle Buster is a chunky boy, I'm putting him in the $30 category as well. The remaining 7 weapons are in the $20 category. It's also going to include the 2 Knuckles here. Despite Technically being dual slot gimmicks, they're a bit larger than your Sparkling Cane or Crossed Dragon, and they also have a bit of weapon functionality. So they're going to be $20 weapons as well. Gimmick time. The 17 best matches that actually get used in the show get their own double packs that are sold at $10, naturally bringing us to 17 packs. The Crocodile Crack Bottle is also going to get its own $10 separate pack since it's not large enough to constitute its own $15 release despite having electronics. Speaking of the $15 packs, those are going to include the 2 Cross Z Dragons, driver triggers, and cans, and the Lonely Full Bottle. That doesn't apply to those sets. I'm sorry, Full Bottle. Our grand total for build is $1,010. Now obviously there's no Kamen Rider sales to compare this to yet, so here's Sentai Potential Season 1. This is obviously much more than any season of Sentai that I have covered so far, and that's largely because of figures and gimmicks. In Sentai Potential, I didn't actually have to cover gimmicks in too much depth because I wasn't entirely sure how to handle them like I do now in Rider Potential. Along with that, Build is just one of those Kamen Rider seasons that went all out with your forms, so there's about 40 figures that could be made, as opposed to Sentai seasons that only had about 20 at most. So it's just a case of Rider having a different story and structure than Sentai. So maybe this comparison is a bit unfair, but next episode we'll be able to get a fair comparison going. Kamen Rider Build could be a really interesting season of Kamen Rider to adapt. The suits and gimmicks range from simplistic and appealing to crazy and out there, which creates a visually striking show that could attract kids who only watch Power Rangers, and maybe even your casual watcher who just has a TV. I mean, just look how badass this poster looks. Don't tell me you wouldn't watch that show if you didn't like tokusatsu. The striking visuals could also help with the toy sales, naturally. But full bottles are extremely addicting as well, so I'm not sure how much help you would need to get these suckers off shelves. The story is always the most wild card aspect because we're not sure what could happen, but because Build was already a pretty well written show, the adaptation could really make an improvement to bad aspects or even take parts and make its own. A common theme is that I'm not sure what would happen if Kamen Rider Build gets adapted, since we haven't seen Kamen Rider get adapted in over 10 years, but I think that Build could be a great season to start it off with. So now that the dam has opened and Rider Potential has begun with Build, who's next? I released a poll a long time ago at the time of this video's release. I have no idea when this video is released. I asked which season you wanted first for Rider Potential, and Build is who won, hence why he's first here. For the next video, I'm going to be going in order of who won this poll, so the next episode of Rider Potential, and hopefully my next season review, is going to be for Kamen Rider Double. After that may or may not be Kamen Rider X-Aid, since that took 3rd place, but after Double, I'm totally open to suggestions. Sound off what seasons you would want me to cover next on Twitter or on Discord, but over here in the comment section, please be sure to let me know what you would like to see from an adapted Kamen Rider Build, or what you think of my ideas. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. And if you want to see more content like this, please take a look around the channel for anything that interests you, and if you do find something that you like, please consider hitting the subscribe button, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching.